Hello! Welcome to Board Game Opinions. We're at the table, and I'm Jonathan.
I'm Steve.
I'm Amy.
And I'm Mark.
And we're looking at our anticipated games from Essen. Now, it's always a little bit difficult to do this. Me and Mark are going to Essen this year.
Say hello to us.
Because that's right, if you see us, that'd be great. It's tricky to look at games coming up because you don't necessarily know quite how they're going to play and all the rest of it. So there's a few possible criteria on which you might judge a game. We've all obviously looked at games that are sort of coming out at Essen. What were your main things that stood out for you in terms of criteria?
Well, it's games I recognise, so obviously the games that have been marketed better you're going to notice more, I think.
Okay.
But also on the Tabletop Together tool you can rank based on rating, and I think the rating is how many other people are interested in that game.
Yeah.
And that's generally a really good tool. It might not be a game for me, but you know it's going to be a game that's going to generate a buzz, and so if you sort based on that, that's kind of what I did.
Yeah. You guys, any particular criteria you were looking for?
I just went through the Board Game Geek list and kind of spanned through. Looked at the releases from companies I more recognise, I guess, because as I'm more commonly aware of what they're going to get. Look, particular designers, maybe names popping up and stuff like that.
That was a big one for me. Certain designers I feel are just very consistent and they keep putting out really good games. Sometimes they're not always amazing, but generally they're always at least good, so they stand out.
It feels a little harsh in the fact if you're not well known either as a designer or like as a release of games, you'll get lots of those in obviously in Essen that we just might be sounding like we're saying that we don't really care about your games. Truth be told, if we're there for 4 days, we're going to see a lot of games. This list is almost irrelevant because most of the time we'll be walking up and down the aisles and going, oh, look at that, oh, look at that, oh, look at that, constantly.
Yeah, we're going to try and see and film as many games as we possibly can, but there's just so many games.
It can be really difficult to know what to expect before you get there. I suppose it's a bit tricky to do a list like this. So it'll be interesting to see what happens after Essen.
All right, Steve, do you want to kick us off?
So my first pick is a game. Again, there's no particular order to these. It's just we kind of collaborated in some lists and games that kind of cropped up on two of our separate lists we've put down here. So the first one that cropped up as a double hit was Letter Jam. 3 of us played it in the Expo. We demoed a copy. We've done a demo review of it, but it's out for release in Essen.
That's right.
It builds upon recent years of all these word games, these tactical word games, either team-based or cooperative, and it's a cooperative version. And it's based on one of your favourite games,
Hanabi.
So you can't see the letters you've got.
It's so clever.
Yeah, really looking forward to having it go at that. We had one game of it and I just thought, oh wow, this is really good.
Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to that one.
This will fly off the shelves, especially if CG always have a nice little area where you get to demo their games. They'll have 4, 5, 6 tables, and I suspect to see this on at least 2 being played throughout the entire weekend.
Yes. All right, the next game then is one that I've picked out. Alexander Pfister is one of my favourite designers, and he pretty much can do no wrong with me. And his latest game that's coming out at Essen is Maracaibo, I think might be how you say that one. I honestly don't know a lot about it. It has been received fairly well, though. People are saying good things about it. It's essentially a fairly heavy Euro, as he is wont to do. But I'm really looking forward to this one. You know, sight unseen, I would buy this one. I'm that much of a fan of his.
When I searched today for the last remaining games to look for, I searched and I did rated by rating, and all the games I'd already kind of put aside had gone off, and this was the top one. So this is the top one that I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
So it's obviously other people have got similar opinions to you.
Yeah.
I'd be excited to see another heavy Euro that kind of stands out from the crowd, because the kind of real classics of heavy Euros are kind of right up there at the moment, and they're sticking their ground, so it'd be nice to have a little competitor come towards them.
One thing he always does very well is interesting card play, and I know this game does involve using cards to move your ship around the Caribbean, I think, but I'm looking forward to see exactly how that works.
Okay, we were just talking of CG one before. My first one is, I believe, my preferred game from the UKGE, as I rated it, the game I most enjoyed playing while there, and that is Sanctum, which I didn't expect to see there, because when we were demoing it, they weren't sure how far they'd actually gone on, so obviously there was more going on than what we got to see at UKGE. It's Diablo, the board game. You basically loot, you level up, then you heal, and you repeat, and eventually you can get to the final boss and kick the final boss. And that sounds great. There's going to be loads of different loot. And there's a really nice system of which loot do I keep, which do I trade in for jewels, was it?
Yeah.
Which then allows me to use those jewels to level up. So it's because you don't know what your item is. It's face down. So it's nice. I know it's of this type, but is it any good? Or do I take the jewels because I can put them into these slots and they'll give me powers and level up later? So it looked really good. I really enjoyed our brief play, and I've already pre-ordered it, so I'll be getting it.
It was so much fun. Just one of those games that there's not too much to think about, but some interesting decisions in terms of levelling up, as Mark was saying. But just a great time. Really enjoyed playing this one.
Cool. So my first one on the list was Azul Summer Pavilion. So it has a couple of little new mechanics, including a wild card mechanic, which sounds really unusual. So essentially it drafts the same as the past two games, but you get, if you take all of the same colour and there was a wild card on that factory, you have to take one of those as well, and it's the same for the middle area. So I'm wondering how that's going to affect your choices, whether you take more, whether you take less. And then it also has a really interesting placing system where you have to pay sort of tokens to be able to even place in the first place. So that I think it's going to be quite different to the other two based on what I've seen so far.
Okay.
That wildcard sounds like another way to do people in. I like the sound of that, because that's the best bit in my opinion.
You can so you don't store them up as you're going. You don't have a storage board, but you can. You a lot more flexibility where you put them out, but you can store up to four pieces from round to round.
Okay.
On the corners of your board, and if you lose any more, if you finish the round with any more than that you can't use, you then lose the points for it. So it's a different way of kind of storing them. You're not kind of blocking yourself in by putting them on certain rows and stuff. So it's amazing that they've done 3 games using the same base mechanic.
Yeah.
This is another one that will fly off the shelves.
Yeah.
I'm sure. You just can't really
It's
go wrong with
beautifully
it all.
designed as well. Again,
Yeah.
and they're going to look amazing just sat next to each other in the board game shelves. So I think that alone is so
I
tempting.
think Century Spice Road did a similar thing
Yeah,
with their 3
yeah,
games, and
totally.
Azul have done that. So you might as
Yeah.
well, if you can, get away with
Just
it.
get the series, yeah.
So my next pick was a game that Mark and I both saw, and it was called 50 Clues, which is a new escape the room or escape the situation game, which seems to use the app a lot more than normal, I think, from what I've seen. I saw the guy demoing the tutorial on the app, effectively, and the deck of cards is 1 to 50, there's 50 cards and there's 50 clues effectively, and then you reveal over card 1 and 2 and 3 gives you a situation, and card 4 and so on, and then there's some sort of map, and you have an app on your phone, and if you want to go to a certain place on the map, you put you and the maps thing in a grid location thing, and it tells you whether you can look at another card or not. And if you get the wrong one, it doesn't do anything. There's no time limit as such. You might actually prefer that.
Oh yeah, that sounds good.
But it takes off your score at the end. So obviously, the more wrong guesses you make.
Okay, so it's attempts.
Yeah,
not
but you
time.
can also that's to look out to locations. You can also type in codes, but the codes are any length. And at the very start of the app, you kind of type in the serial number of the box, and obviously you get that unique game for it effectively.
Okay. Interesting.
And there's 3 of them.
There is, yes. There's.
It's straight off the bat.
But yeah, there's a few escape the room games. This is the only one that stood out for me. I think some of them are a lot more story based.
Yes. Okay.
Than others, but yeah.
All right. There is a series, as it's become now, of hard to pronounce games beginning with T from Daniele Tassini. So Tzolk'in was the kind of original one, and then there was Teotihuacan. And the latest in this series is Trismegistus, I think might be how you say that one. Now, I'm a big fan of Daniele Tassini generally. All the stuff that he does is very good. So I'm very much basing this on the strength of designer. But it has been well received from people who've managed to play prototypes, and it does look very interesting. Heavy, lots to think about, lots of interesting interacting mechanisms going on the board. But this is one of those that I will really enjoy playing, I am sure.
He's one of my favourite designers. I don't think I've played a game that I've not really liked of his. So he's not prolific as such. He doesn't produce as many as some other people, but the ones I've played of his are fantastic.
Obviously, he does a lot of work with other people, so that's why maybe he hasn't quite the bigger name, because it's him and somebody else, or somebody else and him. My next one's not a cheap one, but I guess it's not hitting retail straight after, but I do believe, as an email I've received, that there'll be copies of Reavers of Midgard there, the sequel to Champions of Midgard. I've actually kickstarted this already, so I've already read the rules and all that jazz. And it seems quite cool. It's a worker placement game, but I like the fact that I take an action, and then everybody else gets to take that action. But the person next in turn order gets a better version than like I get the best version. The next person gets a good version, and then the remaining 2 people get a poorer version. So you're like, is it? And you have to pay to take these actions ultimately. So it's like, is it the value work? Does it work in the right order for me? Has this is this the wrong time for me to take this action? So I like the fact that it's a workplace game where I'm in actually care of what the people take this action.
Yeah.
Because if I do this, I'm giving this opportunity to other people, but I'm also giving a bad version to somebody else, and they might go, I might take the poorer version, but then I'll take another action, a different action later.
Okay.
That's nice. As that mechanism's nice.
Yeah, I like that. Because
It'll
obviously
reduce downtime a bit as well, which is always good. Because you're always looking out for being sort of done in a little bit. Because you're like, oh great, now I have to take the bad one. But you're kind of looking out for it, and there won't be as much downtime because you are always aware of what's going on. So you're not going to just be sat there.
Well, any game that gives you more decisions is good.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes.
With the right people in the game.
I really like the Puerto Rico, you pick something and everyone else has to do that thing.
Yeah.
And you get the slight bonus. But that is a really interesting
It
twist.
falls off slightly.
You have to pay for the action, so you could take it. You could take a good one because it's worth for you buying it.
Okay.
But for me, I'm like, it's not worth me paying for that. I'm going to save my resources.
So you might skip it, but you might want to take it, thinking you've saved me time by I'll jump and just get the bit that I want.
I'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just gives you more decisions, and if you can, especially if you can predict what other people, especially if you can predict what the person before you's going to do, who gives you the second best action.
You don't want to benefit the person before or after you, I suppose.
Maybe.
So my next one is Clask 4. So I really like Clask. It's fun. It's simple. There's not much to it. But this is Clask. But there's 4 of you.
I think.
So the board is actually a slightly different shape. I think it's more circular,
I think
isn't
it's
it?
circular,
It's circular. And then you have your little corner. But of course, where there's no corners as such, it's a bit harder to guard your area, because obviously if the balls kind of come around the edges, and that could just sweep straight into you. So that's going to make it a little bit more difficult. It's going to be more hectic. There's going to be more anarchy.
Oh yes.
It's going to be great. I'd love to play it. I'm really jealous that I'm not going. I missed it. I think it was at UKGE, but I didn't have the time where I was working to play. But I've seen it and I want it.
This one might be tricky for us to bring back in the suitcase.
But it's going to be one of those ones. Every time you walk past the station,
you'll play it.
There's going to be people.
You'll play if there's space. There's space. Yeah. Clask was always. I mean, that's when I went to Essen. Clask was always taken up. There was always people there.
Yeah, it's very popular.
You can sit there and play for ages.
I love Clask. I mean, despite the fact that it's like air hockey, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's so good.
But it is so much fun. That's right.
So good.
And it's so quick, which is great. The idea of 4 people, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
Next one for me is a game that these two don't know about. It's called Save the Meeples. So obviously Meepletopia is a place we don't really know where it is, but humans have been raiding Meepletopia for ages to take these meeples and use them for their board games. And the meeples are fed up with it, so they think, the humans are relentlessly attacking us. We need to leave. And so in Meepletopia is a worker placement game. There's some things there, but basically there's 2 win conditions. If you construct the rocket to escape, whoever helped the construction of the rocket the most wins the game. However, instead of constructing the rocket, you can fight off the humans. And if the humans eventually overpower you and stop you taking off with your rocket, whoever put up the biggest defence against the humans wins instead. And so if you're there defending against the humans, you're making it easy for everyone else to build a rocket. And so if they get away, you don't win. However, if no one helps defend against the humans, no one's going to leave on the rocket, and then the humans are going to beat you, and so on. But it's got so that's why I thought you might like it thematically.
Yeah,
but it's got an action.
It was great.
It's got an action selection mechanism. So when you're putting your meeples on, they resolve in reverse order.
Okay.
So it's a worker placement. So you put your workers on. It's a bit like the game we played. I can't remember what it was, but basically, you think I want to do this action first, which means I need it to be there last. I need to put my meeple down on there last. I think that's how it's going to work.
Yeah.
So that when I do it first, I get to take it first. But the chances of it being there for you to do it first is unlikely. So I don't know how it's going to play, but it's intriguing.
Yeah, not only the mechanism. I mean, the theme in a different way reminds me of what Lowlands is it, where you're building the dam to prevent the water. So you've got the work like the normal farm spaces, and also you can build the dam. And so it's like, do I help build the dam more, but then helping the people with the good farm spaces? But if I don't, then
Australia as well.
Everything's like
If you
Australia.
concentrate on your own farms,
Yes.
no one defends against the
Yeah,
zombies.
that's right.
You're going to lose.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Oh,
Having the two win
I-
conditions.
Yeah.
I really
I
like
think
that.
it's great. I'd be really excited to play that when I get the opportunity.
So you have a look for it when you're there and see if it's good.
Yes.
Please
All right.
look for it.
Save the meatballs. Okay.
Do it.
And then the last game that we're anticipating here is, well, one of my all-time favourite games, I should say, is Marco Polo. And essentially, Marco Polo 2, it is literally called Marco Polo 2, is coming out supposedly at Essen. Same designers, and I mean, we talked about them earlier. They just do such a great job, and they've one of the great things about Marco Polo, I think, is the incredible player powers. And one thing you were talking about this earlier, wasn't it? Is they've added
New
quite
player
a few new player powers.
I can't wait.
Really interested to see that. Obviously, some twists on the basic mechanism in terms of what you're doing, but essentially, it's like a re-implementation, the next successor, if you like, the next stage for Marco Polo. So, very excited to play that one.
Yeah, definitely one on my radar, I think. Don't know anything about it, but I'm going to have a look.
All right. I'm not sure we're going to have enough room in our suitcases to bring back all the games that we want to play, but we're certainly going to play as many of them as we possibly can when we're there. Are there any games that you're particularly looking forward to at Essen that we haven't talked about? In fact, we did have some honourable mentions, didn't we? What were anyone's honourable mentions?
There's the next two exits. They're just the titles and sound more thematic. I think it's like the robbery on the Mississippi.
It's like the
and,
train, the
yeah.
mystery train one.
So Unlock, obviously, we love Exit and Unlock. They're brilliant. But part of the reason we like Unlock a bit more now is that they've streamlined the story and it's very good and very thematic and engages you. Whereas Exits feel like it's hard to distinguish them, and the fact that now I think the Exits are now going to the story mode means they're both great games. And obviously, just looking at the titles, it looks like they might be going back that way too.
Yeah. I'm really excited for 2 Everdell expansions that are coming out.
Yeah.
I love Everdell, and one of them, Pearlbrook's kind of a small expansion, and one of the ones that's coming out at Essen is slightly bigger. There's adventures, and you go out and you explore things, and you get bonuses, and some things won't come up in some games, I imagine, some things will. So you actually get to go out, and the animals get to ride the other animals. This is crucial. You can get like a big bison, and you put it on top of the bison. You ride him into the adventure.
Oh, well then.
I need it.
Sold.
I need it.
City Skylines. How do you do SimCity in the board game or the style game? Interesting. Might pick that up. Pret-a-Porter 3rd edition. It's a heavy economic game. It's getting good reviews, so I'm tempted. And a small game called Obscurio, which is like hidden role Mysterium, which could be interesting.
And then there was one that made you laugh earlier, the Mind Extreme, where one round
Sounds mad. Totally
where
mad.
you have 2 different piles, one going up, one going down, but one of the rounds you have to play blind, so you have to put your cards face down and hope you're right, so that makes it even harder.
As if it wasn't hard enough. Another one I'm looking forward to actually is Vital Lacerda's latest game, On Mars, is coming out. There's been loads of buzz for this one. I'm sure it's going to be pretty good. Sometimes I find thematically his games don't always engage with me, but this one looks more promising, so I'm hopeful for this one. So as I say, were there any games that you were looking forward to that we haven't talked about yet? Do let us know in the comments below. And as Mark was saying, if you see us there, if you're going
Light
to
blue
Essen,
shirts.
that's
you'll
right,
see
we're
'em.
wearing our shirts. Do come say hello. It'd be great to see you there. But I'm sure we will have a great time.
Please like and subscribe.
Oh, yes,
We always
yes.
prefer that. It's great. Click the thing.
Down below. All right, thanks for watching. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.